Number 8 is El Toro, Six Flags Great Adventures Intamin Prefabricated Wooden Coaster. Now this coaster is awesome. This is one of my favorite wooden coasters for sure. And I absolutely love everything about this coaster. The bowl, it's just an awesome roller coaster. You get so much airtime on this coaster. The airtime is definitely real on this coaster. You are coming out of your seat on each of those airtime hills. I rode this coaster in the front row, as you can see, that's my ride photo right there from 2 years ago. And I also rode this coaster near the back at night, and boy, this coaster just got better and better. It was awesome. I loved this roller coaster. It's not my favorite at Great Adventure. You'll see my favorite at Great Adventure later on this list, but this coaster was just phenomenal. I loved everything about it. It was a little bit of a shorter ride though, and it did get a little jerky at the end. But other than that, this ride was just fantastic. I loved it. It's one of the best wooden coasters ever built, and if you're a Great Adventure, definitely ride this. Number 7 is Kingda Ka, Six Flags Great Adventures Launched Intamin Strata Coaster. Now I love this coaster. This coaster is awesome. I remember when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I really wanted to ride this coaster, and it really looked awesome. 2 years ago in July, I took a trip to Great Adventure, and I rode this. I rode it 3 times, and I was even fortunate enough to get a night ride on this coaster. Now this coaster is a true legend. It's the tallest roller coaster in the world, standing at 456 feet, and that record still hasn't been broken to this day. It is also the fastest roller coaster in the country, and that launch is very memorable. 0 to 128 miles per hour is a true memorable launch. I love this coaster, everything about it. You even you get a really good pop of airtime after that hill. I just love it. It's awesome. And if you're a Great Adventure, definitely ride this coaster. It may look like the scariest one in the park, but it's a really fun coaster. My favorite coaster at Great Adventure for sure. Number 6 is Maverick, Cedar Point's Intamin Blitz Coaster. Now I love this coaster. This is one of my favorite coasters built by Intamin. This coaster is just awesome. I love the Wild West theming on this coaster, and I love that launch that goes under the tunnel. That launch is so much fun. 0 to 70 miles per hour, it's a great one. This coaster is just awesome. It's only 105 feet tall, but it just proves that coasters don't have to be that tall to be a great coaster. This coaster is one of my favorite coasters. And I also love the drop on this coaster. 95 degrees, it's really steep, and I love it. And this coaster is like a miniature Intimidator 305, and you'll see Intimidator 305 later on this list. This coaster is just awesome. I love everything about it. And I also love some of the airtime you get on some of those airtime hills. It's a really fun coaster and definitely worth checking out if you're at Cedar Point. Number 5 is Iron Rattler, Six Flags Fiesta Texas's RMC hybrid coaster. Now this coaster is fantastic. I loved this coaster. This was my most anticipated coaster on my Texas trip, and I gotta say, it certainly lived up to the hype. This coaster is just awesome. This is one of my favorite RMCs. I love how at the top of the lift hill you slow down. It's almost like RMC tried to pull a dive coaster. And then on that drop you get so much airtime, and I love how the drop curves too. And then you got some great airtime up on the other elements, and you got the wave turn. It's really fun. And this is another one of those coasters at Fiesta Texas that takes advantage of that quarry wall. And I love the inversion you do going up onto it, and you get some pretty good airtime on the little bunny hops on top of it. And then one of my favorite parts of the ride is when you go flying over that one hill on the quarry wall. And you dive off of it. It is so much fun. This ride is just amazing. I love everything about it. It is a shorter ride though, and that's one little downfall to it, but that barely affects it. And I also love how you go through the quarry wall on this coaster. It's just really awesome. And I love this coaster, and if you're at Fiesta Texas, definitely ride this coaster. It's a great one. Number 4 is Top Thrill Dragster, Cedar Point's launched Intamin Strata Coaster. Now I love this coaster. This coaster is amazing. This is my favorite roller coaster at Cedar Point, and I love everything about it. This coaster is just fantastic. I love the 0 to 120 miles per hour launch. It's one of my favorite launches on a coaster, and it is memorable. I love it. I was fortunate enough to ride this coaster 7 times during my visit to Cedar Point, and I loved every ride I got on it. This coaster is just fantastic. And I love the dragster theming on this coaster too. I love how it has the lights where it goes yellow light, green light. You just take off. I love it. It just adds on to this coaster's experience. And I didn't get a night ride on this coaster because I got rained out, But one thing I do know about it is the lights are on the drop, so it counts down on there too, and I think that's really cool. I really wish I got to experience this coaster at night, but that's alright. I was still able to ride everything at Cedar Point. But other than that, this coaster is just fantastic. I love the drop. The drop is so much fun. And I also love how it has the finish sign after the drop. It's so cool, and I just love the theming on this coaster. This coaster is just great, and it's more than certainly better than King Ka. Now, if I were to go back to Cedar Point, this would be the coaster I'd marathon all day. And I love it. And if you're at Cedar Point, definitely ride this coaster. Kicking off the top 3 is Lightning Rod, Dollywood's launched RMC wooden coaster. Now, I loved this coaster. Everything about this coaster is amazing. I just love this coaster. Although I've heard the launch has been slowed down and some people say this coaster is not as great as it used to be, but I rode this coaster in November of 2016. And I got the full experience on this coaster. I loved everything about this coaster. This coaster is truly amazing. And this is definitely my favorite RMC for sure. And not only that, but I love the theming on this coaster. It's got some really cool hot rod theming. It's just amazing. You got some of the hot rod cars up for display in the line queue, and it's just super cool. You've got all sorts of 50s hot rod theming in the queue. It's really cool and one of my favorite line queues for sure. This coaster is just amazing. It has a really good duration too. And I also love the launch on this coaster because at the top of that launch, you get some insane injector airtime before plunging down that drop. I love this coaster. It's just so awesome. I also love the quadruple down before that quad down. It's just amazing. If you're at Dollywood, definitely ride this coaster. Number 2 is Intimidator 305, King's Dominion's Intamin Giga Coaster. Now this coaster is fantastic. I loved this coaster. This coaster is amazing. I just love this coaster. I rode this coaster 2 years ago in June of 2016, and I still remember how intense this coaster was. The intensity on this coaster is legit. I'm not even kidding. This coaster is so intense. This is easily the most intense coaster I've ever ridden, and I love it. On every one of those bank turns, you are graying out, and I remember it. I rode this coaster 2 times in the back and the front, and both rows blew me away. This coaster is just awesome. I love everything about it. And I also love the theming on this coaster too. The Dale Earnhardt theming is just awesome. It makes this coaster look really cool. And if you're ever at King's Dominion, definitely ride this coaster. It is a legend, and it's really fun. Alright guys, here we are at the number 1. My personal favorite roller coaster of all time, and that is Shamu Express, SeaWorld San Antonio's Kids Coaster. Now this coaster is amazing. I love the drop on this coaster, I love the airtime, and I love the intensity. This coaster's got the full package, and it's just amazing. I love everything about this coaster. Wait a minute, did you guys really think Shamu Express was my favorite coaster? Well, you guessed wrong. This coaster is so boring, and it does nothing. This coaster has nothing to it. My real number 1 is Fury 325, Carowinds' B&M Giga Coaster. Now this coaster is my true number 1. I am so thankful to have this coaster in my home park. It is the best coaster in the world in my opinion, and I love everything about it. I have no complaints for this coaster. This coaster is just fantastic. I love everything about this coaster. The first drop is so much fun, and I also love how long this ride is. 3 minutes and 25 seconds. That's really the full package right there. And I also love the treble clef. It's really intense. And I also love how you greet the guests when flying over the front entrance. It's just amazing. And I also love how after the treble clef you dive under the bridge. It's just so awesome. And night rides are the best on this coaster. Front row at night is one of the best roller coaster experiences I've ever had. And I just love it. And I also like the back on this coaster too. I've ridden every row on this coaster at this point. And I've been riding this coaster since it opened. And this coaster is just amazing. And the back row is so fun. Like how all coasters you go flying over that first drop. And you get some insane airtime going down the drop if you don't get stapled. And this coaster is just amazing. You also get some really good injector and floater airtime on those last airtime hills. And this ride is really the full package. And I could not ask for a better coaster to come in my home park. This coaster is a true legend. And if you're at Carowinds, definitely ride this thing. Alright, that is my top 25 favorite roller coasters of all time. Now stay tuned for my next video, which will be top 10 least favorite coasters. Now I hope you enjoyed this video most of all. Let me know down in the comments what some of your favorite roller coasters are. I would love to hear. And thank you for watching now. Bye.